So very welcome to the Drama Dharma podcast of the Kienze Center for Contemplative Tradition at our University of Leipzig. I'm so happy and pleased to have you here with us, Dan Hirshberg. When I first saw you and when I look what you did before, you were doing a lot of historical research. And now with great excitement, I see you are incorporating sitting practice, incorporating actual meditation sessions into the curriculum of the universities. Currently you're at the University of Boulder and at Naropa University, if I understand right.
My position is really at the University of Colorado Boulder. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I contribute at Naropa, but my position really isn't there.
Yeah, and that's like, for us as the Center for Contemplative Traditions, there's so many different points where paths cross between contemplative practices, instructions on contemplative practices, manuals, texts that we read, and at the same time the environment that they come from. And now not only the environment that they come from, which might be a practicing environment, but also that the practice in certain aspects also comes out of these traditions again and serves people in different ways. We do have the ways of the Buddhist centers that are kind of autonomously functioning for our education system, but at the same time, our educational systems are opening towards mindfulness and compassion practices. And often these are entirely secular. But then what does secular mean? What does religion mean? Sometimes very narrow definitions and constraints that come with it. So I'm very happy to ask you, what do you do? How does it work?
Yeah, so, I pursued contemplative studies at a couple different institutions now, and a lot of this has to do with the nature of those institutions, what they're open to, and the opportunities that we have for teaching when we're there. So formerly, when I was a professor at the University of Mary Washington, I already had a couple colleagues in our department who had started a contemplative practice course where it was really geared towards teaching students how to meditate. So we had the opportunity there just to move forward and work within that program and eventually develop it into a contemplative studies program, which I directed and I really articulated as something that was meant to be, in many respects, skill-based. Because that's what the students wanted. On the one hand, you can look at contemplative traditions, of course, as a topic of inquiry. You can approach it critically through academia or through other means. But what the students clearly were interested in, or moreover, what they really needed more than anything, what they were seeking, was help to deal with their stress, to deal with their anxiety, to deal with all of the distractions of current environment, social media, constant attachment to our devices. And so they're really looking for practical help, not just content about what people in these traditions did some time ago, and even not so much about what they're doing today, although we certainly relied on some of those materials, but they really wanted to get into the practice. And so that's how that program developed there, is really around contemplative pedagogy and the evolution of these courses in which students were required to meditate every single day for 20 minutes. And so if we could get them into a 2-semester sequence of courses, they would be meditating, hopefully almost every day anyway, for almost a whole academic year.
Then they do basically more an instantaneous practice, or like a shamatha practice, meaning calming the mind practice, breath focus, or what do you incorporate as a practice for them?
The way that I lay out the main curriculum is a progression of skills. And so interestingly, in the scientific study of meditation, the measure of relaxation and concentration are done separately. But in traditional Buddhist context, if we're talking about shamatha or calm abiding, we're really working on both foundational concentration and relaxation together in one method. So typically within the class, I do a lot of guided meditations because they have to meditate outside the room every single day as well. So within 20-minute sessions in the classroom, I try to give them some tools to work with. First, beginning with basic calm abiding. We could call that shamatha, simply focusing on the breath, and also working with some of these different traditional techniques, whether it's counting or instructions to focus on specific points of sensation, like at the tip of the nose or the bridge of the nose. And then as we progress, we start to go into different areas. So we really focus on just this notion of relaxation and concentration, and direct them to look at those qualities of their experience separately. They have to journal about their meditation each time that they do it. And so they can look for those further and really explore the quality of their experience as they're working with these techniques. And then as the semester progresses, we start to look at different types of skills. And so we do compassion type practices, a gentle approach. Some of the traditional models like Tonglen, sending and receiving, can actually be very overwhelming for students. And moreover, when we look at the history of that tradition, when it was brought to Tibet by Atisha, it was actually an esoteric practice. It was something that was kept close only for more verified and developed practitioners. And so I think we have to be careful with some of these compassion practices and really help students work their way up to working with more challenging people, more challenging experiences, certainly. And then finally, one of the last skills that we really work with is kind of a more open awareness and meditation and action. And so you might do more walking meditation and encourage them to apply this kind of awareness when they're doing different types of activities. At UMW, I was able to install a Japanese-style garden that was fairly good size right outside the Center for Asian Studies. So I incorporated that into the curriculum where students would have to go and work in it each week. It didn't matter what they did, as long as they were focused for an hour and really applied themselves with a sense of presence, no devices, and no other distractions. So that's more of the approach that I take.
It's really, really interesting what you're doing, what your experience is, what you have established, and what works, what doesn't work. And I think I can take this as an inspiration for our further directions in Leipzig. Thank you very much.